Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NFL with Kyle. And today we're going to be looking at an article that the NFL released about the 2024 NFL regular season schedule. The schedule was released last week on Thursday. And with that, you have every team going through the list and looking at, whether their schedule is tough, whether it's easy. You got teams like the Bears who have, no elite defenses faced till late November. When they play the Lions for the first time. And then you have teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the hardest schedule I've ever seen in my entire life. If you look at the Steelers schedule, they have one winnable game. So I know Russell Wilson's going to be a big reason for the blame if the Steelers have their first losing season. But this is an absolute nightmare of a schedule. Okay, so there's 272 games on the schedule, and with the NFL heading into its fifth campaign with a 14-team playoff field, we continue to see an uptick in contests that have postseason consequences. Okay, so we're going to be going through every AFC team and looking at their total win projections. Okay, and then I believe this comes from Caesars Sports Book and Casino. As of 5:45 Eastern Time on Wednesday, May 15th, okay, unless otherwise noted below. Okay, so we're going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs, who, of course, is going to be the Super Bowl favorite. The Chiefs are on their way to winning 9 straight AFC West divisional titles. Their win total is at 11.5. So almost 12 wins. They're minus 500 to make the playoffs. Minus 245 to win their division, plus 330 to win the conference. So although Kansas City is almost a lock to make the playoffs, not as comfortable saying that they're going to win the conference, right? Plus 330, for those of you that don't bet, the best way to say it is if odds are plus 100, then if you bet $100, you win $100, okay? But if odds are minus 500, you bet $100, maybe you win like 20, right? I don't have the numbers in front of me, but basically minus means it's likely to happen. Plus means it's rare, and the highest that plus number goes, the more unlikely it is to happen. So the fact that the Chiefs are plus 330 to win the conference, that is that is saying that they're probably not going to. And then you look at win Super Bowl, plus 575. So if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan and you feel like there's no way the Chiefs aren't going to go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, then you love these odds. And like, I understand a lot of it is that nobody's ever three-peated. All right. And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be trying to do this year. They're going to try to make history. So I don't think it's a crazy bet to bet on the Chiefs, but you see that even the odds are plus 330 to make it to the Super Bowl. So those are probably the best odds in the NFL. They're saying that it's, I guess, more likely that they go to the Super Bowl than they win the Super Bowl. But last year felt like a down year, and they still ended up winning the Super Bowl somehow. So you like these odds if you're a Chiefs fan. Despite 2 tough games to start the season, they got the Ravens and the Bengals. The schedule is favorable for the reigning Super Bowl champs, who are not slated to be underdogs in my models in any of their 17 contests. That's insane. They're going to be the favorite to win every single one of their games next year. Next Gen stats showed that Kansas City's passing game averaged just 6.5 yards per air attempt, or 6.5 air yards per attempt in 2023. That was the second lowest in the NFL, but they added Hollywood Brown through free agency. They added Xavier Worthy in round 1 of the draft. That should help change some things. The Chiefs also benefit from the fact that their hardest 4-game stretch of the season comes late in the slate. Weeks 14 through 17, which means they have a lot of time to establish their offensive identity before facing the likes of the Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers in December. And this is kind of the same boat that I felt like the Chicago Bears are in, right? You have a lot of rookie quarterbacks. You have a lot of subpar defenses for Caleb Williams. By the time you get to that late November game against the Lions, the idea is that they'll have some sort of identity. This is very similar to the Texans last year, right? If you look at the Texans schedule in how they got rolling, it was because they were facing some really easy teams with quarterbacks that are no longer quarterbacks. And the Bears are kind of getting that similar treatment. And the Kansas City Chiefs, you can add to that list, whereas week 14 through 17, they should know who they are by then when they play those tough opponents. But going to the team that is probably going to challenge Kansas City, and you might be thinking of the Ravens, I'm actually talking about the Bengals, okay? Their win total is over 10.5, okay? So right there with the Chiefs, just one game behind. They're minus 210 to make the playoffs, but they're plus 170 to win the division. I thought this was interesting because anytime Joe Burrow has been healthy, they've either been in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. And I understand with the last injury that if is becoming a little bit bigger when we're talking about Joe Burrow. But I mean, that if you're betting, betting on Joe Burrow to stay healthy doesn't seem that crazy to me. Okay. So plus 170 to win the division. I love those odds. I think the Bengals can win their division. They're plus 700 to win the conference and plus 1,300 to win the Super Bowl. Worst to first debates are great for offseason fodder, and in the spirit, no team has a greater possibility of achieving the feat this season than the Bengals do in the AFC North. I project the Bengals to have at least a 55% chance probability, win probability in 4 of their first 6 games. And we talked about this with Cincinnati normally getting off to a slow start for whatever reason. Now they finally get a schedule where they should be able to get to a hot start, and that could go a long way in this contested division. One of the reasons Cincinnati has such a positive forecast is the upgrade they made up front, specifically in the additions of Trent Brown through free agency, Amarius Mims with the number 18 overall pick in the draft. In fact, the Bengals O-line win share projects to be the highest in Joe Burrow's career up to date. And when Joe Burrow took his team to the Super Bowl, they added a bunch of people through free agency. Then that next year, they weren't able to stay healthy. Then last year, Joe Burrow was hurt. But make no mistake about it, this is the best offensive line that Joe Burrow has had since taking over for the Cincinnati Bengals, since being drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. So I like the Bengals shot. I think Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the league when he's healthy. And I think this revamped offensive line is going to give Joe Burrow the best chance to stay healthy that maybe he's ever had in his career. The team that I predicted to win the Super Bowl is here at number 3, and this is the Houston Texans. The win total is over 10. I like that number. Double-digit wins. You got to be happy about that if you're a Texans fan. That's plus 100. Minus 200 to make the playoffs. So are expected to be a playoff team, but plus 100 to win the division. Okay, so not super confident about that, even though they're being selected here, still plus 100, probably because of the Jacksonville Jaguars, plus 700 to win the conference, and plus 1,300 to win the Super Bowl. So the same odds to win the conference and win the Super Bowl as the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's just a testament to how good CJ Stroud was. Okay. The writer said, I was wrong about when I forecasted the Texans win total last May, so I spent some extra time analyzing them this year. Okay, Jonathan Greenard was a big value player on the defensive front in 2023, and he not only outperformed my estimates of him, but he earned a big new contract from the Vikings in March. I feel better about the forecast, about how to forecast Danielle Hunter this season. NGS shows he had the 4th most pressures last season. That's huge. 4th most pressures last season. That is a big player. Then they traded for Stephon Diggs, and they re-signed Dalton Schultz. It creates a great environment for CJ Stroud to lead Houston to back-to-back AFC South titles. It also helps the Texans schedule build, or it also helps that the Texans schedule builds in terms of difficulty. So they should have an opportunity to build chemistry among their new pieces and potentially get out to a fast start. The toughest section of their slate is a 3-game stretch from weeks 15 to 17, and it comes right after their bye, which helps, and it includes a Christmas gift for all of us, a matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, so as you can see, this is kind of going in order. We had the Chiefs with 10.9 wins, 10.5 for the Bengals, 10.3 for the Texans, and 10.2 for the Miami Dolphins, who have their win total at 9.5 right now. And right now they're saying over, right? The writer's saying over. He said, I think they're going to have 10 and 10.2. So to go over is minus 135 right now, minus 160 to make the playoffs, minus 190 to win the division. Not which is interesting because they're the favorite to win the division, but I don't know how the Jets haven't come up yet. Totally disagree with this. And it's like, well, what if Aaron Rodgers can't stay healthy? It's like, how many times has Aaron Rodgers missed the season? Twice? Like, he's never been like this injury risk, that we're hearing people are just like, you never know. Well, you do never know, but it's still like, okay, you had the Bengals winning the second most games in the AFC. What if Joe Burrow can say he has a longer track history of not staying healthy than Aaron Rodgers? Okay, so last season, Dolphins, Miami's offense finished top 5 in total points, yards, and completion percentage. This season, they are one of 3 teams per my model that doesn't have a win probability of less than 47% in consecutive games until after Thanksgiving. But that's when things get a little bit tricky for the Finns. After facing the Packers at Lambeau to cap off the holidays 3-game slate, they take on the Jets twice during a 5-week period, with matchups against the Texans, 49ers, and Browns, a road sandwiched in between. So, yeah, things are going to get tough here for the Miami Dolphins, and I think they're going to lose most of those games. So, he's taking the over. I'm taking the under. I'm not even taking the Dolphins to win the AFC East. I don't see it. Okay, the Baltimore Ravens come in at 10.2, tied with the Miami Dolphins. The Ravens' schedule slides them under the Bengals in terms of median win projection and renders them a more probable wild card team than divisional winner. Again, it's May, so let's all take a deep breath. The AFC North currently projects as the most difficult division in the NFL. Not shocking, but that makes for a lot of potential internal disruption among these 4 teams. For fun, I modeled out which games Baltimore's schedule forecast to be the most pivotal. And as of right now, it looks like the outcome of Ravens-Eagles in Week 13, just ahead of Baltimore's bye, is one of the most likely to determine the Ravens' playoff picture. So circle that game Week 13 on your calendar if you're a Ravens fan or an Eagles fan, if you want to play spoiler. All right, coming in right underneath the Baltimore Ravens, we got the Buffalo Bills, whose win total is over-unders at 10.5. He's saying take the under at 10 wins. This is a specific model that they use to project wins. So when I say, the over-unders at 10.5, I'm just giving you what Caesar Sportsbook has it listed at, but then the second number I give you is what the simulator is generating. Okay, so the Bills are at 10.5, but the model shows 10 wins, so that would be the under. There are minus 190 to make the playoffs, plus 165 to win the division, plus 700 to win the conference, and plus 1,400 to win the Super Bowl. So for the past 3 seasons, the Bills have ranked in the bottom third in terms of win total variance in May. It's not super surprising that Buffalo, a team with an elite quarterback, but a squad that has experienced significant turnover on both sides of the ball, Stephon Diggs, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, and we're not even talking about Gabriel Davis, who went to the Jaguars. They could all with equally realistic possibility win the division or end up third. All things are on the table, especially when you consider the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills are all going to probably be competing number one. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills were first or third. And that is kind of a unique situation, kind of like the AFC North finds himself in over there. The Bills follow up their Week 3 Monday night clash against the Jaguars with a challenging 3-game road trip. They're playing the Ravens, Texans, and Jets. That drove down their win probability by almost 0.3 games from before my models factored in the 2024 schedule. So definitely strength of schedule playing a huge role in the reason why Buffalo's win total went down 0.3 games. That's a pretty big, those 3 games knocked it down almost an entire game. So I think they're just saying one of those games they're going to lose most likely. Okay. And that's not even their hardest stretch. Their most difficult sequence occurs from week 11 to week 15. Chiefs, then a bye week, then the 49ers, then the Rams, then the Lions. So there is just a lot of tough games on the Buffalo Bills schedule. And losing all the talent, losing Stephon Diggs to the Texans, Gabriel Davis is with the Jags. I know they drafted the wide receiver out of Florida State. I can't remember his name right now, but is he going to be able to come in and be an impact player right away? I think so. I think so because Josh Allen's that good, but still, these other teams are really, really good that they're going to be playing, and they have more continuity. Like the Rams going into year 2 with Puka. You got the 49ers adding weapons, but Patrick Mahomes is Mahomes. The 49ers probably going to kick off the season with Debo and Ayuk still on the field. And then you got the Bills who feel like they're in a rebuild, but they're not because they have Josh Allen. But is he going to be able to hold this whole thing together through those stretches? We'll see. Coming out underneath the Buffalo Bills, you got the New York Jets. Their win total is at 9.5, and the model says over 9.6, so just barely over. They're minus 130 odds to make the playoffs, plus 200 to win the division, plus 1,400 to win the conference, and plus 2,500 to win the Super Bowl. And also keep in mind that I am going in order from, the best odds to win the division, the best odds conference, the best odds to the Super Bowl. So the order that I am going in is what the order of likeliness is that they will win the Super Bowl, starting with the Chiefs, number 1, of course. I'm so looking forward to week 1 when the Jets head to Santa Clara to face the 49ers. I know that Greeny for ESPN's not happy about it, but I think this is going to be a really good game. Aaron Rodgers is going to play where he grew up in his return from injury in what will be a really big game in his Jets career after missing an entire year, only playing 4 snaps. I played around with my models by equating win totals and I don't even know what that means. Volatility, right? We're nerding out over here to a 100-point scale. The Jets schedule is almost 23 skill points more favorable than the Bills. Okay, just say that, which is the biggest disparity between teams that ranked first versus third in their division last season. This shouldn't come at a surprise to anyone, but the Jets' offensive line and defensive depth will likely determine the team's ceiling this year. Okay, I think they're wrong on this one. I think they're way off. You look at the New York Jets. We got Jinja in here, and he said minus 130 to make the playoffs. That's crazy. And Jinja, hope you're having a good day. Thanks for your comment on our latest Broncos video. But yeah, I think they're wrong about this one. I don't see a scenario where the Jets aren't really, really difficult to beat next year. The Jets have Aaron Rodgers. The expectations last year were the Super Bowl. They're a much better team this year. They beefed up the offensive line. They added that defensive depth. They drafted really well. There's a quarterback learning from Aaron Rodgers. And the cameras are off, right? More importantly, Salah's already come out and said last year was loud. The offseason was very loud. Hard Knocks, all of that. Helicopters flying over the stadium. I mean, these are still young kids. Hard to keep their focus. right? All that's kind of died down now because we were all like, ah, yeah, the little boy that cried wolf. The Jets are going to the Super Bowl. We already believed it last year. We're not going for it again, right? But the real reason that didn't work last year was because one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL wasn't on the field. So there's really no reason not to have that same hype, but even more this year. But it's funny how hype and the outside noise really reflects the win total, because the Jets' win total was more than 9.5 last season, and they're a better team this year. Okay, so I think the Jets are going to be a tough team coming in underneath the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is insane to me because I think the Steelers have the hardest schedule I've ever seen in my entire life. Week 2, we get Russell Wilson back at Mile High Field. That's an early revenge game, and it will provide plenty to talk about in the coming months. But Pittsburgh's second half slate really deserves attention. It's an absolute nightmare. After Week 9 bye, the Steelers' final 9 games are more than twice as hard as their first 8. And he measured the win probabilities and added them together. Among those 9 contests, all 6 of their divisional games, as well as heavyweight bouts with the Eagles in Philadelphia and the Chiefs on Christmas. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule, go take a look at it and ask yourself, how is that legal? How did they get away with this? I'll just give it to you right now. All right. So they have one winnable game. Okay. You got, I believe they had the Panthers in here. Okay. I'm just going to go through really quick. Week 1, Falcons, Broncos. And you might say, Broncos, that's easy. It's not going to be easy. It's a revenge game. It's in Denver. Trust me, Sean doesn't want to lose that game. Max, the winner, is going to win this game by 3 points. Okay. And I can tell you right now that the over-under is probably going to have Denver -3, -2.5. Okay. Then they play the Chargers, then the Colts, then the Cowboys, then the Raiders. All right. That's it. Hopefully those were easy games, right? Against the Cowboys and the Colts and the Broncos and the Chargers led by Harbaugh. Hopefully they took advantage of this beginning of the year slate, because here we go. Jets. Okay. And then here you go. Here's your Giants and Commanders. You might say those are the 2 easiest games that they have. Then they will not get another easy game for the rest of the year. Okay. So November 10th is the last easy game. And we're saying that the Commanders and Giants are easy games. Okay. Buckle up. Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. Are you freaking kidding me? How in the world is anybody supposed to? I mean, no, you can't even come up for air. The schedule is brutal. You got the Bengals twice, the Browns twice, the Ravens, and then you Eagles and the Chiefs. I mean, that's absolutely insane. And we got Bill in the chat. What's up, Bill? And Ginger said, I think any odds to make the playoffs is a pretty ballsy bet. Kansas City, San Francisco, and Philly are the only teams I would be comfortable betting -130 to make the playoffs. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And yeah, it's gonna be most likely the Chiefs, as much as I hate to say it. I absolutely hate to say that. All right, let's continue. The Cleveland Browns right after the Steelers. Okay. The Browns were dealt the NFL's hardest schedule based on their opponents' final 2023 records. Who gives a shit? It's the Steelers with the hardest schedule. However, the Brown fans fear not. Their slate isn't as bleak as it might seem. I currently have Cleveland's schedule as the 5th hardest, but that outlook could become more favorable once the preseason starts, when we'll hopefully get a chance to see how key offensive players are performing coming off injuries. The Browns' final 4 games, Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens, which follow a trip to Pittsburgh in Week 14, are going to be a real test. In fact, that sequence currently ranks as the hardest final 4 games of any team in the league per my models. Well, throw your models away, because the Steelers' final 4 games are a little. Let's take a poll on that. All right. Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens. Those are the final 4 games for the Browns. Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens. Here's the Steelers' final 4. Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. Am I missing something, or are these not the exact same games? Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, Steelers. Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs. Okay, so the Dolphins. They're okay, so you're basically replacing the Dolphins with the Eagles. That's the only difference. You're replacing okay. Who would you rather play, the Eagles or the Dolphins? The Dolphins, in my opinion, especially if it's a road game in December or late November. So, there's no way. There's no way that's more difficult than the Steelers. But anyway, those are going to be a real test, to say the least. In fact, that sequence is going to be, in my opinion, the second hardest. I'll say the second hardest of any team. Another reason for optimism is the defense, a unit ranked top 2 in passer rating, completion percentage allowed, and QB pressures last season. It created a really solid win total floor, especially given the Browns' more favorable first 5 games to start the season. Okay, next up we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8.4. So they're saying under. Okay, the Jacksonville win total is at 8.5. I'm saying over immediately. Don't even have to think about it. Okay, then plus 120 to make the playoffs, plus 285 to win the division, plus 2,500 to win the conference, and plus 4,500 to win the Super Bowl. I think this is easy work for me. Take the over. We're going to learn a lot about the success of the Jags offseason moves early in 2024. Jacksonville kicks off the year with the hardest 4 games of any team in the league: Dolphins, Browns, Bills, Texans. The Jags' median projection is a wild card berth, but my models show that they need to make it to their Week 12 bye with at least 6 wins to have a strong possibility of clinching a spot in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence is that guy. All right. Doug Peterson, if he can get this team rolling, Gabe Davis is over there now. They drafted another weapon. Don't sleep on the Jags, man. 8.5. No way. And then the Chargers, just a little bit underneath. Now, I get this because Harbaugh is a great coach, but I feel like they're being a little disrespectful to the Jags here. For the Chargers, the win total is at 9. They're saying take the under. The Chargers probably win 8.2 games per the models. Minus 105 to make the playoffs, plus 350 to win the division, plus 1,400 to win the conference, and plus 2,500 to win the Super Bowl, which means the Jags actually have a worse chance to win the Super Bowl. Okay, the Jags have plus 4,500 chance to win the Super Bowl. The Chargers are only plus 2,500. That is really interesting, right? Despite an early bye, Week 5, the Chargers' win share increased by 0.2 wins as a result of the 2024 schedule. With a new coach, front office, offensive tackle, wide receiver group, Los Angeles will likely need some time to get everybody on the same page and build a strong rapport. The schedule does them some favors in this regard because their hardest 4-game sequence, Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, doesn't hit until mid-November. In addition, the final 3 games, Broncos, Patriots, and Raiders, currently ranks as the second most favorable of any team. And I stick my middle finger up to that. Right underneath the Chargers, you got the Indianapolis Colts. Their win total is 8.5. The models show 7.9 wins, plus 150 to make the playoffs, plus 320 to win the division, plus 3,000 to win the conference, plus 5,000 to win the Super Bowl. The return of Anthony Richardson, along with some great new pieces, add Mitchell, Latu, creates a ton of upside for this young team. The Colts' hardest 4-game stretch comes in the middle of the seasons: Dolphins, at Texans, at Vikings, and then Bills, with a trip to the Jets and a home game against the Lions immediately following. It's a lot of different playing styles they'll need to adjust over a 6-week period. The good news is my models have Indy favored in each of its final 4 games of the campaign at Broncos, Titans, Giants, and Jags. And we got a Bronco and Giants fan in here. So Jinja, don't rub it in. All right, coming in right underneath the Chargers, you got the Raiders. Win totals at 6.5. The model shows 6.4. Plus 260 to make the playoffs, plus 1,000 to win the division, plus 5,000 to win the conference, plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl. The Raiders. The Raiders have an interesting amount of upside this season, so my gut tells me my model is underestimating them. I don't think so. I think there are two primary reasons why they could have more success than my models project. First, they have a favorable spacing between some of their hardest games. For example, they're at Cincinnati in week 9, but then they have their bye week before taking a trip to Miami in week 11. While the slate from week 6 to 11 is tough, with games against the Steelers, Rams, Chiefs in that mix, it would have been that much harder without the week-long break. The second reason is that they have nearly equal win odds in the games before and after their week 10 bye, meaning one half of their schedule isn't more lopsided than the other. The main explanation for why my model is down on the Raiders is the uncertainty under center. Vegas will likely need at least average quarterback play to be competitive in the AFC race. And then, wow, we only have 3 teams left pretty much. And we haven't even got to the Broncos yet. Tennessee Titans win total under 6.5, plus 400 to make the playoffs, plus 1,000 to win the division, plus 7,000 to win the conference, plus 15,000 to win the Super Bowl. Will Levis threw 4 touchdown passes in his rookie debut, then just 4 more over his other 8 games that season. This is just one indicator of why we still don't have a clear picture of his potential. And I certainly don't think we have a statistical relevant sample yet. And that's true, He looked great in his opening game, but then not so great following that performance. What I believe was on primetime, I think it was against the Dolphins when he got his debut, and he won that game. That was a big game for the Dolphins, or for the Titans. Also muddling the forecast is a new coaching staff and the departure of Derrick Henry, both which signal a big identity change for Tennessee's offense. The Titans close out the campaign with 4 of their final 5 contests against divisional opponents, which gives them plenty of influence in how the AFC South shakes out down the stretch. Unfortunately, my model suggests that they're more likely to play the role of spoiler than a playoff contender. And then the Denver Broncos. The model says 6 wins, or the draft book says 6 wins, and the models say 5.7, plus 475 to make the playoffs, plus 1,600 to win the division, plus 6,000 to win the conference, and plus 10,000 to win the Super Bowl. The Broncos' first 5 opponents, all either known for their defensiveness or having defensive-minded head coaches, are far from the ideal matchups for a rookie quarterback, but maybe it's a positive thing that Bo Nix, should Sean Payton name him the starter, won't know anything else for comparison. At Seattle against Pittsburgh, at Tampa, at Jets versus Vegas. Talk about a warm welcome to the NFL. Then week 9 and 10, the Broncos traveled to Baltimore and Kansas City. That is some tough sledding to start a career. I'm just going to say this, and I'll leave it at that. The Denver Broncos will always win 8 games at least, right? This floor has nothing to do with quarterback play or talent on the roster. If you saw my interviews, I made it really clear. It has everything to do with Sean Payton. Sean Payton doesn't lose more than 8 games. He just doesn't. Whether it's after Drew Brees retired and he had to juggle Eli Booker, Jameis Winston, and Taysom Hill under center, they were still playing for the playoffs week 18 or week 17. So there's just no way that Sean Payton is going to have a team that wins 5 games. It's not going to happen. We might not be very competitive, right? You might know that we're not a playoff team by, December, but even last year in December, Denver was playing for the playoffs. Okay. It's been a while since that's happened. Now he's got a quarterback that he actually likes under center. Then you got, last but not least, the New England Patriots, who their win total is at 4.5, and they're saying over. The model shows 5.3 wins, plus 900 to make the playoffs, plus 2,800 to win the division, plus 8,000 to win the conference, plus 17,500 to win the Super Bowl. The new regime and new quarterback in New England are projected to have an extremely difficult start to the 2024 season. After opening the campaign in Cincinnati, the Pats host the Seahawks before facing the Jets and 49ers on the road. While their next two games are at Foxborough, they're against two playoff teams from last year, Miami and Houston. The good news, my model forecasts significant improvement from Gerard Mayo's group as the season goes on, especially with the key defensive pieces coming back from injury. And that is the entire AFC win projections. I have Pizza Sunday coming up, but I wanted to jump in here because this was released. The NFC hasn't been released yet. Normally when this happens, it's because the NFC is going to be released tomorrow. I do have another interview coming up tomorrow. We have the Only Football podcast tomorrow, and I'll probably hop on during the day tomorrow. I also have a job interview tomorrow to be a maintenance technician, working at a apartment complex, right? Don't tell them, but I've never done that before. I just applied for it and they called me. So I've been watching YouTube videos and stuff. I mean, a lot of it's so basic, oh, my hot water's not coming out, or I fixed the water heater, light bulb change, or, my drain's clogged. A lot of it's very, very easy. So I'm not too worried about it, but that is going on tomorrow. So wish me luck on that. And like Bill says here, good luck with the Celtics, Jinja. And Jinja said, I would guarantee we lose one of them. Oh, talking about those games, those final easy, quote unquote, easy games the Colts have. But thank you for tuning in, guys. Please like this video, and I will see you guys on the flip side later. See ya.